up a seat at the bar to join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansen, Maggie, and me bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.
Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 13.16, The Erlking, where we are covering the novel Deadbeat. My name is Tansen, and I'm joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Hi.
Thank you to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us to do what we do. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at www.patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 20. Harry goes back to his apartment and discusses the recent events with Thomas. Dresden asks Thomas to check out the series of numbers from the USB drive while he plans to go off to ask his godmother about the Erlking.
Finally makes it home. And I can sympathize a little with this. I've never had like a 4-inch piece of steel shoved in but I have had a not so good working foot trying to drive. And yeah, it's tough. I have not had a leg injury exactly like the one Harry has just suffered. But I have had, yes, a injured foot, and it is quite painful trying to operate a clutch.
I really empathize with this looking in the back mirror every often. They're probably...
That too.
Who cares?
I kept
it's
really
fine.
Good look, as long as they were driving like a super nitro bike.
Because I personally adjust my mirror twice a day because the energy, the height that I am in the morning versus the height that I am in the evening drastically changes. And I find, depending on which job I'm getting out of, I'm going up and down with this little mirror, and I never feel like it. I always feel like I get in the car the same way, and then I'm like, does this thing droop? Why do I always have to fix this?
So you're saying you're like more slumped and hunched down in the morning, and then you're like perkier and awake?
It totally depends day to day.
Well,
it's
yeah.
Different. Sometimes I leave 7-Eleven at 6 a.m. and I'm all droopy, and sometimes I'm like, all right, brand new day now. I'm headed to the next job, start over, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. Like,
there's no comment, but I just find every time I get in the vehicle, I'm just up and down and up and down and up and down with the mirror.
That's a little bit funny. Yeah, I don't have to adjust mine that often.
Twice a day.
Mine is more often from other things like dogs or kids like running around and bashing into it or yanking it to see themselves or whatever. I'm like, I find mine adjustments were more so those causes than just my own. Gets very minor.
I push the seat way back up rigid.
I do. I
keep mine rigid too. I don't like the whole leaning.
Neither do I. I never have. I like sitting up straight when I'm driving.
I feel like I control if I'm too far down.
Yeah.
My sister drives like she's fucking laying down in bed, but no, I like being totally straight up.
Which is funny because I've said this before. I'm like, again, with tall people and stuff like that, I understand that part of that is simply, if the seat is up, you will be bashing your head into the roof of the car kind of a thing. Like I get sometimes for guys for leg room and height. Right, but she's like 5'2". She's slightly shorter than even Jess and I are, and she does. It's not that bad, but she has. But Lorraine used to kind of.
How can you not see the road?
I sometimes have to move mine because my hair pushes my.
I do.
Forward.
Only time I lean back my chair is when I've got a bun.
Same,
because then I need room for my hair.
That is, yeah. I've been thinking about that. We should make $1 million here. Quick, don't put this in. Where you can have like a slightly instead of just the headrest going up and down, it should have like a little bit of or something to
wrap around
to to make either where it can move back slightly or it kind of needs a tilt because you still want the headrest. You want the headrest to touch, but the bottom of it to like lean back to accommodate, like you say, you're right. So yeah, we need some kind of multi-flexy,
Something for more hairstyles.
something for more hairstyle, like the little wrench thingies that are all like just a little ball bearing. So like when you stick it on, it just molds to whatever shape is. We just need like that, like they're like
Memory
foam, memory foam, or like those face pin toy things or whatever, right? So it just
It'll suck if you get into a car accident, but at least your hair will have a spot.
But there's like a lot. No,
pins.
no, you. I said like, not okay. But no, this is it. So it'll have like a lock unlock mode, right? So like you can do it where you get in and get it shifted, and then when it's like fitting, then you like click it so that it like holds firm, so that now it's doing its job. If you actually are in an accident,
I just feel like it's going to be like when you put your forehead on the bus, you're like, every moving with the cars.
No more so than your
Just a
headrest
net.
does already, right?
Maybe just a net, because if you like, it'll catch your head, but it's not enough to...
No yanking.
Yeah, I don't know. I love that we all have that same problem, because you're right. That is the only thing. Is the
only time I lean it back is for my hair. Yep.
I have to let it go just one notch so that I'm like the.
One notch.
I don't know.
You have such an old car. Mine? It's exactly mine.
Which is funny because my car is
Mine has a
actually,
ripcord on my... So it just goes... Whonk.
my car is newer than yours. Okay?
Mine's all automatic. Okay, there's no notches. I can go between if I want to.
Mine isn't, unfortunately. It's
Up and
It's
down.
got toys, but it's
forward
like
and
a
backward.
semi-base. I do. Yeah, I don't have power seats. I have literally
All one little button.
Yeah, I have a little grabby handle for front and back, and
Fucking
I have
loser.
Yeah,
Me
but
too, actually, for having such a
new car,
sporty
the
vehicle.
sport- yeah,
With everything else pimped out. You'd think the chairs would be, but no.
yeah, no, it's
And maybe
weird.
it's like because they're the
feeling
captain's
better
chairs.
than you.
It's just like...
Yeah.
Right.
I also have a sunroof, so go fuck yourself. I do too. You don't though, Maggie.
I have like this... I like what I like
don't
about
feel
mine
it.
is that it has this mesh. So you can have it all the way open, but you can
No
keep the
bug.
mesh closed, and so your hair doesn't go sucked out the window.
Out the window, or have things
Yeah, but you still get a
flying
nice...
in at you or
Breeze,
anything.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like it.
That is cool.
So much to Harry's dismay, Mr. is very excited to see him and slams himself right into Harry's injured leg because cats care.
Oh, it's that every single time, right? Like you don't notice a certain thing or whatever until you heard it, and then all of a sudden you smack it on everything all the time. And,
Oh no, I think that is a cat's right.
well, this too, but I'm just saying it's just, again, it's part of that, yeah, Mr. does this all the time to him anyways. But now, whereas normally Harry's like, hey, Mr., yeah, come and, now it's like intense agony. Now it is like, do not give me your affectionate greeting. No, fuck. Yeah. And then he gets a cute little mouse, like, waits his
turn.
I was like, hey, Mr. Dunn. Okay, I'll come over and say hi now. And yeah. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but Chinese throwing stars will get you a dozen stitches.
I love this image of Thomas just sitting there by the fire, samurai sword, shotgun,
Shirtless.
is a vampire.
Right? He's just like, yeah.
Like, how decked out can you be, dude? But it's just
shirtless by the fire, but he's got his...
it just seems so like, I don't know, like a haunting, scary image of just me like,
and you know he makes
Oh,
it look good and casual, right?
hey, you're up.
Well, yeah, okay, see, I always take it as just a cat, right? Like, that's just it, right? I'm sitting here with my...
He looks like an editorial
This
from
is
like
like-
a fashion magazine with like this.
This is just everyday Thomas, right? Sitting by the fireplace with your book with, like a shotgun and a... But that's funny, though, because you saying it that way, because, of course, Harry's apartment is sort of, it's only candlelit, right? So whether he was trying, would just add an element to that. Thomas is just sitting there in the dark with, like, a fucking array of weapons. Well, hello, Harry. Nice to see you. And I'm like, holy fuck.
The vibes in here are weird.
Right? I never got that before, but now I'm probably, every time I, like, see this scene again now, I'm going to be like, it's like, wait.
Can you imagine being
Lying in
Putters
wait
being
for-
like, I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'm thinking all the women that have come to this apartment on behalf of Harry or Thomas. One single woman for Harry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, oh yeah. Other than her, although
It could almost appear as like it's like a kitsch thing, like, oh my god, candles, you're so romantic. It's like, yeah, thanks, we can't afford electricity.
yeah, right.
Let me turn on the
Like, yeah,
fireplace, baby.
That's why Thomas goes out and gets the early morning jogger, so he doesn't have to explain why there's no lights on anywhere.
It's all great until you have to make coffee in the morning. Ooh.
Right. That's why. It's
It's like grinding it with a mortar and pestle.
That's why.
You can buy it pre-grounded, Jansen. Jesus.
But knowing Harry, he'd just be like, this is cheaper.
Instant coffee.
It's gotta be the cheapest.
Right?
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, we know Harry.
I don't know.
It's got to be one or the other. Part of it, Harry would be like, well, I already have all like these mortar and pestle, so of course. On the other side, it'd be like, well, I can't use that because I don't know when the last time I crushed up like some uranium was, so I can't. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Thomas maybe is like, no, these beans are the best if you like crush it yourself.
Yeah,
You do it in your hand.
Thomas would be like that, but he'd never do it himself. He's always had somebody to do that for him.
I know it's better, but I don't know how you do it. So I drink your instant coffee.
I was just
It's
saying,
really just Harry's luck that is how it would work out.
Because you're gonna say the first time that he got the shit beat out of him when Thomas made him is like the eggs were too watery and the bacon was burnt because Thomas has like no fucking clue how to cook on a wood burning stove and probably doesn't cook a lot to begin with, and then now he's got
Mac and cheese is hard, okay?
it's right.
It's really hard.
Right. Frick.
So Thomas updates Harry on Butters, which is really quite adorable. Funny little guy. Made an awful racket with that polka thing of his for about half an hour. Babbled for 45 minutes straight and then fell asleep eating dinner. I put him to bed.
Right. I just think of like all the times like babies like pass out in their spaghetti bowl, Like I'm like, okay, it wasn't quite like that, I'm sure, but at the same time, right?
Those
like,
adrenaline highs, though, man. Like,
well,
I'll never sleep again.
yeah. Well, it's funny too because you're saying like, what does Butters think? And I'm like, and I was thinking, I'm like, well, Butters passed out already. So meanwhile, shirtless, jean-clad,
He's like an anxiety.
sword-wielding Thomas just scooped up Butters against his bare, manly chest and tucked him into bed. Like, he was the ready of it.
Yeah, I'm still even imagining him playing like the polka thing while he's on like trauma, anxiety, like high.
Can you imagine those pause, right?
I get this is a bit of a spoiler for later in the book, but I get why Butters thinks that like Harry and Thomas are gay. The vibes in this apartment are weird.
Everybody, yeah, right. Like, what else do you make of it? Yeah. So that's cute. That's fine. And then Thomas starts going a little like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's a coward. And Harry's instantly like uber defensive, like, and Thomas is like, spade to spade. Like, I'm not saying it's good, bad, or I'm just saying it is. And kind of Harry's like, okay, well, yeah, he's dealing with all this shit. And Thomas is like, I get it. I
It's not
understand.
fair. He's a normal Joe Blow who got forced into the supernatural. It's not fair.
Right. So again, I was a little bit like with Harry there at the start. I'm like, what? And then, but Thomas does have, right? I'm like, okay, you do kind of make a case
Thomas
for
has a
it.
point because he's got predator vision.
Well, that
He
too,
knows how to pick out.
but more precisely, he's like, exactly. He's like, well, not everybody. And he's like, not everybody's going to get my brother killed. And you're like, right, you're not just picking on Butters. This is why you have more of a problem maybe with him not being, because you're right.
My problem with him, though, is this whole, like, well, he was afraid to lose his job, so he caved, and that makes him... I'm like, well, okay, no. That's not cowardness. Self-preservation is like, yeah, okay, of course the law's not going to believe that you saw vampires. Like, I don't think that one's fair. A lot of his other points are fair. That one is like, okay, Thomas.
I was going to say, this is the hill he should die on. I'm sorry, Thomas. You announced to everybody, hi, I'm Thomas. I'm a vampire. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not hiding that shit from people. Of course, like...
You can't keep a fucking job at McDonald's right now because you keep making out with the manager. Like,
right? You can't tell anybody
what's the baseline of that circumstance anyways? Like, how are people supposed to respond and then tell their superiors? Like,
right? Exactly.
Yeah, so he was supposed to, just, no.
Become jobless because he's sticking to his truth? Like,
exactly, right? So, yeah, just because he had to say to them. But, yeah, again, I'm like, that seems a lot.
That one doesn't seem fair, but whatever. Thomas is mad. Take any point he
I'm like, he's sort of the principle of the thing. But, yeah, I'm like, that in itself is like a poor example because you're right.
Yeah. Murphy's not going around telling everyone the supernatural is real either. She's just working against it.
They hide that all the right. She's like literally her like, this is why SI exists.
Her job is to fake it.
So that they can say it was a guy in a rubber mask and not, so finally, Butters is like, okay, it's the barber, and he's like, well, you just totally like
he's been a
failed
wizard
on all your
doctor.
principles.
And I don't think like
5
Thomas
minutes.
really has the ability to see what it's like to not really.
There is that side too. Thomas has never been not. Right? Thomas has always been a has, not a have not kind of a thing. Right?
That's not true.
Just being in the supernatural world, having knowledge of it, like
but
at some point he would have been introduced in probably pretty.
Okay,
he might have.
We don't know when Thomas lost his virginity, but maybe like for 16 to 18 to 20 years of his life, he thought he was a full-on human. And then all of a sudden the whole world changes, and now for the last 15 to 20 years he's been in vampire land. But still, yes, the difference between being enshrined in the supernatural, at the top versus being enshrined in the supernatural at the bottom. Very different experiences, okay?
Yeah, and then getting thrust upon, like, for how Butters is being thrust upon in the supernatural world, he's like, things are kind of weird, and
Thomas thrusts upon things very different.
but no, he's looking at all the circumstances thinking, things are really, really weird, and last time I told somebody things were really weird, I got put in a mental hospital, and I don't really believe, and we know from even just this book that he doesn't necessarily believe in supernatural because he keeps saying no.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Lamar essentially told us last chapter, I don't want to end up like Butters. That shit sucks. You tell people what's happening, you go to the loony bin, you lose your job. You have to...
and he makes a fair point, right? Because he's like, look, we have to wear bulletproof vests because, we're trying to help people and they shoot at us. And Harry's all like, oh man, that's shitty. He's like, no, that's not the point. He's like, people crack under, right? We're under a lot of stress is the point I'm making. Not that, oh, my job is scary, but exactly the second you sound like you maybe are not handling things, they're gonna, right? Yeah, which, again, makes sense in those high-stress jobs and stuff like that.
He was already convinced
like,
he was crazy for it.
He's like, I don't want
actually real.
Yeah, I don't want to give anybody the thing that I'm even yet.
And again, the credit where credit's due is that Butters has been upholding his side of the supernatural job that Harry and Murph basically forced him to do. You're providing some medical attention to Harry and doing your own research, studying whatever about this.
Well, exactly, right? Whether you want to call it a magical wizard or what, you are seeing the scientific results of, I don't know if I can explain this, I don't know if your explanation is right, but yeah, your cells are reproducing this and that, you're doing this and that.
You allowed yourself to become...
There is something different about you from
medical consultant for Harry on behalf of Harry when he needs a one, whether it's about Tony Mendoza or himself or vampires exploded at Bianca's mansion and every other tiny little moment that we've had Butters throughout the series so far.
Right.
I don't think it's totally fair of Thomas to be like, this bitch is useless. And it's like, okay, but he wasn't expected to do all this shit before now.
Well, like you say, yeah, Tom is fine, until whenever that puberty hits, and I'm thinking Thomas is probably earlier than some. But,
we can really see the difference between the two of these guys, how different they were raised, because Thomas is just like, cut him loose, this is a liability, and it has no empathy. Not a lot.
Not a lot.
He has some, but
yeah. Well, no, again, he doesn't have a personal investment in, right? He's like, I'm concerned about Harry and me here.
Harry's always been for the underdog.
Thomas wasn't sort of indoctrinated until that moment, and yes, that is a traumatic violence, but the difference there is that he was perpetrating the violence. It wasn't being perpetrated on him. So the minute that Thomas did the deed and, right, then they're all like, okay, boom, so this is what you are, this is right, then he got fully. He wasn't, whereas, yeah, Butters is being forced into this on the other side of the right.
That's what I mean, though. They both entered this at two very different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and even Thomas will have been nurtured into a certain
but that's why I was going to say more about, like, Thomas being right? Like, okay, fine, he wasn't raised, and he was raised as a human, but the second that became, then it was all explained and laid out for him, and he had the proof in himself, let alone right there. I mean, he's, Daddy was probably like, look what I can do. Hey, Laura, rip the head off this cow. Like, look how easy it is, right? Like, he had multiple ways to be like, this is it. Whereas exactly everything else and Butters is rebelling against it, and everybody else is trying to tell him that no, right?
Yeah, and we don't even know that, like, Lord Wraith would have raised the males the same way he did the females. So it could be that he even just knew growing up.
It could be. I do get the feeling, because I think when he was talking about it, I did get the sense that that's how it was for Thomas as well. But you're right, it's not sort of as explicitly stated. We don't, so yeah. I'm like, I get where Thomas is coming from a point, but exactly. I'm like, it's just, easier for us to be more sympathetic. Cut the dude a little bit of a break. This is a lot he's taking in right now with all of a sudden, not just somebody coming after you to try and kill you, like some other, like, action flick where you accidentally pick up the wrong... No, I'm like, this is like supernatural and shit, or people trying to kill me all of a sudden.
It's a little bit like, if this had just been some random girl, like Lydia or something that's enshrined in the supernatural by accident and doesn't have any of their own wits, it wouldn't be the whole, like, he's gonna drag you down and get you killed. I think it'd be more like, yeah, you're being the gallant hero here, Harry, I totally get it. Yeah, I'll watch them, no problem. Bring him home for the night. Who cares? And Thomas instead is like, well, it's a guy and I'm not attracted to him, so fuck that guy, cut him.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, it's the same thing of the damsel in distress. Just not a damsel. So Thomas is like, fuck this. Why are you being so nice? And Harry's like, this is my whole stick.
This is my... Right, exactly.
I do like your point, though, of like this could kill my brother.
Yes.
Right, I do get it. in that way, Thomas is just as possessive as Harry when it comes to his people. He just doesn't consider Butters to be his people, which for us is like, how dare you? We love Butters.
Right.
But I get it from Thomas's point
Butters
of view.
was
like,
awesome from the time they were like, this is Waldo Butters. And you were like, instantly. Like,
right? I get it. However.
But yes, fair. But again, as Harry says, like,
if you know your brother Thomas, you know that this is...
and again, that's basically what Harry goes on. Like, okay, I get, right? He sort of comes down a little bit and is like, okay, I see where you're coming from, the point you're trying to make. But again, same thing, right? This is what I do. I'm not going to just leave him out. Again, it wasn't his fault. So yeah, he's scared. Yeah, he's got reason. I'm still going to make sure he comes through this.
Right. He does have a valid point, or Harry does, about that. It doesn't allow Butters' growth, and ultimately it will make things worse for him. Like, he'll just
that too, right? Yeah,
stew in this trauma instead of
if you never
having a redemption moment.
Get through this. If this is then exactly right. You're sort of stuck there, right? And then we get a cute little interval with the pets again.
Oh, can I tell you? You've seen Rory, how little she is. She's totally done this to a Great Dane, where the Great Dane was about to eat, so she stood in his bowl and started eating the dry food, and the poor dog was just like, oh, and waited. Like, that dog's food was like the size of her fucking head.
You know what? I am quite certain I have a picture of Rory. So before, when Panda used to be in the kennel, like, all like, wow, was her and her food and water were like just inside. And there's a picture of her like sitting there looking at it while Rory is like eating out of her food or water bowl, and the dog is, who again was a, may she rest in peace, we just lost her recently, but she was a golden retriever cross, so she was like a large dog type. Like, she wasn't as big as a Great Dane, but she wasn't like a Chihuahua.
And this was a big Great Dane.
But yeah,
too.
but that's what I mean. But Pandy was definitely much bigger than the cat. And same thing, she had moments where the cats were just like, no, we're just gonna wait. What you got here? Anything we want?
I like this. You're gonna wait.
Yeah, but I love this scene. And like, it's not even just that like the cat gets there first. I love that like Mouse goes over and he like, right? Like, he knows the second I come over here, Mouse or Mister's gonna come do his thing, right? Not even just like, oh, he's about to, and Mister's like, wait. But yeah, I love that. Just like, remember when he used to like just slide all the way across the floor when he did, like, oh, can you imagine? Like, that is, because again, we know that Mister is a big cat. When the dog was still a teeny tiny puppy and the cat was significantly larger than the dog.
Mouse is the sort to respect tradition.
I just love the image of that, of him just batting him and him just sliding across the,
I think I really love the lordly disdain description is like my favorite part of that. Like,
well, that too, right? So he's like, all right, fine, you get, and he's like, he ate like half a piece of kibble, swatted the rest and walked away, you know, just like, I fucking love these guys as much as oh my god, like they are just as good as any of the fucking human characters.
So Harry basically tells Thomas everything. He's like, fuck this, I need help, let me just sound it all. He used a sounding board. And I do like this whole, normally using a sounding board to go over everything and see if there's anything I missed or how does it sound. And Thomas is like, a date?
Yeah.
Of all the things he picked up.
Forget all of that. You spoke to a woman?
Right.
Fuck you, stupid brother.
Which is, again, I'm all like, oh, I can't give, like, Butters time to adjust or anything. He's just God. But yeah, out of all this trauma and stuff like that, okay, let's focus on this right now here. I don't care if I'm going to get you killed right now. But it's like, you can't put that shit off. Who cares if there's, you know?
And then he figures out that he might just be shy.
I know. Which is like, I didn't know you never go out to, which I got to admit, like, this is, again, just the dichotomy between, like, Thomas and Harry, right? Thomas is just like, you never go to any bars, you never like go to any clubs and
try. Harry, I'm like, when does he have the time?
Well, there's that, but I'm like, that's not where I go. Like, that's not my dating scene either. I've never like gone to bars to pick up or go to clubs to meet them. And again, I'm kind of like Harry. I don't go out there to meet people specifically a lot, but you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm like, yeah, sure, for you, Thomas. I'm like, yeah, you know what? You probably are hanging because you're gonna look sexy as fuck no matter what you do. And Harry on a dance floor is probably not the same effect, you know?
I don't know if I see him more like as shy as more like just kind of awkward.
That too, yes. This is a little bit of both. I mean, partly it is the time, and again,
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, but I just love that where he's like, I just thought maybe, you know, like you were interested, like, I don't know, you're still hung up on Susan. I don't know, you're not like going out anywhere. But he's like, oh my god, you're just shy. That's why you never talk to anyone or go anywhere to, you know. I'm like, yeah. And again, just the sex vampire to Harry, you know. Like Thomas is like, like,
What? I have to give up your bed?
I do not compute to this at all.
So we get confirmation that Harry did read it, German and all. So what we know about the Erlking is that he is high class fairy, okay? Maybe even on par with a queen, which seems just crazy to think about that there's anyone on par with the queens. That he is some sort of wild fae designation, doesn't really
he doesn't have to answer to
doesn't
either
have
one of the
them.
queens. So, yeah, he's an independent that's, just about the equivalent.
Oh, not just that,
What
his
the
associations.
fuck?
He's associated with primal violence. Like, that's
scary.
Wow.
And
Not who I want to fight or summon.
Right, and you get this whole hunt thing, but then they also have this bit about this, we're not quite sure. He has a reputation as a being that preys upon children, or one that at least heralds their deaths, but some of them say he's a guardian that helps their souls so they don't get lost in between, right? Like,
Sounds like a German fairy tale to me.
Yeah, right?
But I mean, we've got the same shit about, like, we've got 1,000,001 Peter Pan stories, Is he just hanging out with kids and having fun, or is he, like,
Stealing them away.
Stealing them away, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, it's just like, again, right, you've got this big, all-powerful being of the hunt, and then he's like, also, he's really closely linked to, like, kids in some way.
he
either
doesn't
really
fit into
protects
a
them,
box,
or
okay?
totally, yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Well, it sounds kind of similar to, like, Krampus. Like,
yeah, I don't. I guess
either way,
it's-
I do love this mythos, though. Like, I love that this is getting this introduction. I love it so much.
And it's funny because this is basically the first time I ever came across this and whatever, right? So at the time of reading this, no idea. I mean, other than the fact that we know he pulls from a lot of stuff, so most of this isn't straight out of Butcher's imagination, right? But whether it's kind of like his thing but yeah, now it's like I've seen it pop up in other places, and again, like, the same name or the slight variation on it and the thing, right? And again, it just makes you be like, oh yeah, all this other.
Have you ever read The Mist of Avalon?
Yes, I did read that.
This is what this reminded me of, is like it just like plucked straight out of some of that.
Oh. That's not the part that makes me reminiscent of it, but I suppose if I went back and reread it,
Like, I feel like it fits in that sort of Arthurian.
There was
Arthurian.
but yeah. Sounds like there's mixed opinions. Oh, fairy tale like that. Well, fair enough.
Feels like pagan lore.
Yeah, right. Like, well, yeah. Again, with the hole and the horns and the things and the stuff, I'm sure.
Wild fae and all.
Right.
Pagans.
So yeah, so then they're like, okay, so what's important about this then? Why do all these necromancers want this book about the Erlking? And he's like, what's in there? And he's like, not a clue. Nothing jumped out at me at being, this is why we need this book. It's like, so yeah, songs, stories, accounting, a little bit. They've got to figure out that. He's like, well, is it connected to the Dark Hallow? I don't know. What's the Dark Hallow? He's like, he's got all these answers, but not, right? All these things have been dropped. Unfortunately, he doesn't know what any of them are that people are talking about and throwing out. Musetta, which apparently is some kind of bagpipey accordion French instrument. The musette. So yeah, it was like the instrument they were talking about, yeah.
Right.
So yeah, so he's like, okay, they're stronger than me, they're this or that. Thomas is like, okay, sounds like maybe this is a good time, like, you're in over your hat. I know it's not your go-to. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe we should go to the council. And Terry's like, yeah, still really can't. I agree, and I am, he's kind of hoisting his own petard here because he's getting deeper in this, and if the council finds out, it's going to make him look really bad for having knowledge of these events and things without. But yeah, he's like, I'm still between a rock and a hard place.
So it's not a good strategy-wise for keeping himself alive to protect Murphy in this way. It is a good strategy when he brings up, right now they don't have a common enemy. Right now they're all fighting each other.
And that is the other thing, right? Yeah, that is another.
Bring in the council, and suddenly it's one side versus one side.
The enemy of my enemy.
Exactly.
Yeah, it makes things pretty black and white there.
And then Thomas is like, oh, they have a common enemy, you. And Harry's like, I don't know shit, bro.
Yeah.
They don't care about me.
Again, they're not taking me that seriously. One guy from the council as opposed to the whole of the council. Yeah, a bit of a difference, whether you're talking about the whole order or even just those 7 wizards or whatever, right? Like, yeah.
And Thomas is trying to complicate things even more by being like, and also, who destroyed your car? We don't have time for that, Thomas. Shut up about it.
I was really not thinking about that right now.
I don't know.
Problems for another time.
We'll never, ever know.
Just don't forget, people, just in case that was a thing. It's really weird. Does not seem connected to any of these other events or enacted in a way that any of these people have been throwing around.
Somebody's clearly mad at you. Who else?
Right?
Add him to the list.
What else is... Yeah, right? Like... And I mean, again, given as we keep joking about Harry having, like, more and more, like, notoriety and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, really, it could have been, and you know what I mean? Like, you know, some nurse that had to like clean up. I don't remember that fucking card. It's this guy. I mean, you know, like, he could have any number of, you know, small or major things that somebody's just randomly coming along.
I mean, he does review, like, who, of all the people, he doesn't really, either he figures it wouldn't be, or he doesn't know them well enough to actually make the assertion if it is.
Ghouls don't really smash your windows. They just eat you. I don't know.
Just doesn't.
So, yeah.
But he does bring up that liver spots. Seems quite familiar to him.
Yeah, that does. It is tickling something there now that you mention it. I think there's a thing there, but yeah.
I think that's what it was. This is like the second time that he's mentioned that this liver spots guy looks familiar.
I think he did, because when he first ran into him at the Forensic Institute or whatever, it was kind of like, hey, there's but no time to figure it out because zombies are trying to kill me. I'm just gonna. Right, so yeah, he's that little earworm has been planted, that something is there and niggling, but he hasn't figured it out yet.
So one thing that they do end up touching on is that USB drive again, and those numbers. And then Thomas was like, oh, maybe it's a cipher. And I do love that Harry's like, oh, you might be right, go work on it.
Yeah, right.
Fuck this is your job now.
I have to go out dancing. Yeah, but I love how they kind of, spitball it a little bit here, throwing back, too many numbers for this, doesn't make sense for that, this and that. But yeah, now he feels all James Bondy because now he gets to be intelligent and good looking. And although, yeah, that was a cute part before where he's like, I can be a sounding board or whatever. And he's like, are you helping? He's like, sorry, I forget sometimes I'm so pretty that I'm like actually supposed to be intelligent, you know? Like, he's going to go find out more about this Erlking guy because, nothing jumped out. So he's like, how are you going to do that? Well, you want to know about a fairy thing? You go to the source. I'm going to talk to some fairies. I'm going to talk to dear old Auntie Leah. It's a bad idea, Harry.
When's the last time that Leah has come up? Like, that was that the war stuff, or?
Yes, because that was book 4, and I don't think there was any reason to see her during Death Masks. It was all about the nickel heads. Yeah, I don't think Leah has popped up, and then...
We know she received, he's seen her now with the Anthem.
Yeah, but she got that at Bianca's in book 3, so that was... So, when he interacted with her in book 4 for the Fairy War and stuff like that, she had it, And then
it's been a hot minute since we've seen it.
Yeah, and again, she had no reason to...
For good reason, because she's usually trying to turn him into a dog.
Porn set, yeah, he didn't have to... So, it's been a couple books since we've seen her. That was I'm not making any more deals with my, like, I just keep getting in worse and worse. She's like, nope. Oh, we're gonna go call her up. Okay, what you told me, isn't that kind of dangerous? Very. So you hold the fort. Yeah, you should take backup. I am. Come on, Mouse, let's go. Oh, Mouse is in backup.
And please, take this thing with you.
Oh, come on, Thomas. It's not that bad. Harry, please. Pretty please.
This concludes our episode 13.16, The Erlking. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Andre Bayana, Toronto.